we'll start by opening effectively an empty assembly model. Okay, so if I go and choose this assembly here, and I go and choose open representation. By the way, there is a config that can set this up so that this dialog box here happens every time, no matter when you click open. Okay, if we look at this, we have the option to select the same sort of representations we did before. But if I click here and go define, okay, I can create effectively a new representation on the fly. As soon as I press the enter key here, it gives me this simplified rep dialog box. Okay, so what we see is by default, everything is excluded. So if I know the names of what I'm wanting to show here, I can just go and say include. All right, so in this case, I might say automatic rep for that. Okay, so this is the frame assembly that we talked about before. Okay, so if I choose automatic rep for that, that's fine. I can also, this is only really a preview at this stage. So if I change the top level to be master rep, you can see it's taking a little bit of time there just to show me the preview of that. But you can see how the sub assemblies are all sort of by default match that. Okay, that's just the default behavior, but you can choose whatever you like. So if I choose exclude now, it goes back to what I had before. Okay, so let's just say we do that, we open that. What that's done is that's actually, if you look here closely, it's actually created me a new on-demand simplified rep called demo. Okay, if I come into the view manager here, now I have a one called demo. What I can do now is, let's say there's another particular component that I want to include in this. So I can either use representation master, okay, which is what I had shown you previously, or I can edit this here in this dialog box, which may be more familiar and may give me some other options, which we'll talk about in a moment. But if I turn that on there, you now can see it's added in that additional part. And maybe before I see, because the beauty of doing it this way is that it gives me as like a little bit of a visual representation of what I'm actually planning to bring in before I actually bring it in. If I do it through the UI and just say set to master, it has to load all of that in, whereas at this stage it hasn't loaded it. Okay, but as soon as I click open, okay, so you saw it took a little moment there, but what it did is it went away and it actually loaded in the full models of that geometry. Okay, so now if I was to, let's say, okay, I'm happy working on this. Tomorrow when I come back in, I want to work on the same thing, but I don't want to have to go through that process again. So I've already created the rep, I've saved it. So tomorrow when I come back in, nothing's going to be open. I can just go back to open and open representation and choose this demo now and click open. And there I am back working with that really, really quickly. So yeah, we can, that dialog box, the simplified rep dialog box here can be used in a number of different ways. So there are some inbuilt tools inside this here. So if we zoom in and see what we have here, we could say show active or show inactive. So this is like effectively showing the reverse. So if there's something that we want to see visually, so we want to include that, but we don't know what it's called, we can come into this dialog box and say, okay, now I want to, what's that one there called? Okay, so what I might do is I might say, let's set that one there to be master rep. Okay, so now it's sort of taken that away from that view, but if I look at it in the active view and change and toggle the selection, you can see without actually having to open it up and figure out what's what, the whole full assembly, I've now found that, and that part then becomes part of my rep. Okay, so if we also just go a bit further with that, inside this dialog box, we have the ability to check by like removing internal components. I won't show you that one. Remove external components. You could play around with that on your own assemblies. This is just invert selection, so that's the same as what I did before. And then if you've got a particular component selected, you could say include only that component or not. Okay, so if I pick that now, that's effectively changing my rep to be only that, which is actually not what I want, but I think you get the idea. So you could do multiple selections there and just pick out the bits that you wanted graphically rather than have to use the tree. Okay. All right. So another way, as I talked about before, another way we can create a rep is by a search. So the find tool here, if you're familiar with that, can be used effectively in the same way as to select components, maybe to add them to a layer or to add them to a simplified rep or even to create a rule. So if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to create a new simplified rep, we'll call this rule. And in here now, if you look a little more closely, there's got this model rules, okay? So what I can do is edit the rules to either include or exclude. Let me just do that again. Sorry. So edit rules, and we might say, sorry, my screen's just hiding this a bit. So let's edit that. And if you look in the tree here, we've got something like some file names starting with MO, so it's MO, right? So if we say file name is equal to star MO star, okay, and we preview the results, you can see that we get those items there. So we could use this for size, as you can see, if we had a physical size we wanted to use it for, saying anything less than a particular size. But for now, I'm just going to use a name. Actually, sorry, importantly also as well, we should consider that there's a property. You might have a property in your, or a property, they say it's a parameter in your model, which is like whether it's a purchased item or whether it's a manufactured item, okay, or whether it's a library part or what it is. And so you could search to either include only those or exclude only those. You can also do build queries and things like that. But what I want to do is create a new rule now. So let me just look at the query. Sorry, I just have to reset this. So if we do that and we go okay, and that's saying exclude, I actually want to just only have the master rep of those components and evaluate that and go okay. So if you look in this dialog box now, the default assembly is set to exclude, but then this one and this one and this one See how it's set to master rep based on that rule that I just set? Okay, so if I go open, that, of course, it's taking some time now because it's got to retrieve some stuff into session that wasn't in session before, yeah? But it's not bringing everything in, okay? So now we've got that rule-based rep set there. The beauty of that is that now that the way that rule is set is that I'm going to be able to continue to work, and if anything else matches that criteria that I've set, it would become part of that rep, okay? There's a config option that sets whether that rule update happens automatically or not, and the default option for performance is not, but if you want it to be, then yes, it can be automatic. That can obviously add a little bit of overhead to your performance, but it's probably better to take that than have to try and update everything all the time.